You are now tuned in to DameSmiff.
Welcome to Musician Talks with DameSmiff. This is episode 48, and I want to talk to you guys today about craft versus charisma in the music industry. And before I get started, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and share this video with anybody who's interested in the music industry, improving their soft skills as a musician, or just want to have a conversation about what it's like being a creative in today's society. So, today's topic is craft over charisma or versus charisma. Which one is more important for artists today, and which one is, I would say, more beneficial for artists? So, what do I mean by craft? Craft would be your skill set, your talent, things you can do in the industry that provide benefit to others in the music industry, as well as benefit to yourself, essentially. Like if you're able to, let's take this piano for example. If you're able to play proficiently on your instrument, it speaks to your craft on the instrument. Now, what I mean by charisma would mean that you may not necessarily be the best at the instrument, but at the same time, you have a lot of control over the instrument. And you can see that a lot today in terms of, we call them microwave artists sometimes, where they'll make a really, really good song. It's really popular or viral, and they're able to capitalize on it because of their personality or what they're, currently their lifestyle and things like that. But when it comes down to craft, meaning putting your skill set beside another contemporary's skill set, which one would be considered better? And this is a conversation for artists that typically is controversial because artists don't really want to be in competition with one another. That's typically what the industry has pushed us to be. But at the end of the day, the music industry is about selling records. So if one is not selling records as well as the other, then we can make a distinction there on what is really going to be determined as the better artist. So which one would be better in my opinion? I think you have to find a balance, but if I had to pick one, craft will always outshine charisma any time of the day, because there's musicians out here that are pushing 60, 70, maybe even 80 years old playing their instruments, and they can outplay just about anyone just off the strength of their endurance with the basics. Like they've mastered the basics at maybe age 16 on the guitar playing blues, and they've been playing since 16 to age 60 the basics of blues. So when it's time to whip out the basics of blues on their guitar, it's that much more embellished, that much more fine-tuned and perfected and things like that. But on the flip side, this same musician may not be the most outspoken or extroverted person, or maybe not even as sociable. They might not even be likable at the same time. But the position they play for that instrument is what keeps them of value in the music industry, and able to work and sell records and things like that well into retirement. So on the other hand, you can have a musician, which you can typically see this with vocalists, where if they're not perfecting the craft of vocalization, which comes in many forms. It's not just singing, but comes in many forms. But if they're not focusing on the craft of that, and they're selling it off of, let's say, networking or charisma, or maybe they're very sociable and easy to work with and things like that, eventually the demand for what they're doing is going to fall to the wayside, because you can only manage how long people like you based on how much of a benefit you bring to them. And that's just basic. Some people are different, obviously. It's just a generalization. But at the end of the day, if you're in the music industry, the market is going to tell you whether or not they deem you of value today or tomorrow. So if they don't deem you of value, meaning like we don't search for your music, we don't expect your music to come out and things like that. This happens pretty much every week. You will see super popular artists who were popular maybe last year or something like that, we're not looking for their music, and they won Grammys and things like that. So it's not a matter of accolades and resume and things like that. It's about value. So if the market doesn't see that value in you, you now have to make up for it in craft. You don't have to compete with the people who've been honing their craft for almost decades, and that workload is, in my opinion, working backwards for a musician, because your craft should have been in priority, and your networking should have been like the very close second, or your charisma should have been a very close second, so that way you could be in more sociable situations to where you can present your craft. So I want to pose another question. In your experience as an artist, has charisma propelled you forward in your career, meaning you were getting more gigs or getting more views, getting more plays, getting more prospects, like people asking you to work with them or things like that? Or has craft done that job for you? So place a comment below. And that's all I have for you today. So this was episode 48 of Musician Talks with DameSmiff. And today we talked about craft versus charisma. And I'm out.